Hello, in the last video we looked how to code some inline CSS elements into the div tag of the HTML page that we created. In this video we're going to start looking at how to separate these style attributes up to the top over here. Now before we start, I want to start explaining a basic concept in CSS called selectors. Now selectors are methods of selecting certain elements inside an HTML page. For example, this div can be accessed using the div selector. Also, we can give this div an ID and select that ID, or we could give this div a class and select the class. I'm going to be explaining what these different selectors are for and how they're useful and their power in manipulating CSS elements. So, first, we have to start creating the style tag on our head element. Okay. Now, within the style tags, we could create our CSS on the top of the page, as opposed to right in the div tag, because this can get a little bit cluttered, especially when you want advanced CSS elements. Alright, so now I'm going to take away these things. I'm going to actually cut them. I'm going to take away the style, and we're going to need a way to access this div. So the way we're going to access this div is simply by putting div, and okay. Now a lot has happened here. Before I move on any further, I want to save and show you how this file actually looks. Okay, now you see nothing has changed. Let's look at the source. But you see all the elements are over here. Let me explain what's going on over here. So, when the browser renders this page, what it is actually doing is that it's going to the style tag and it's saying, I need all divs. Everything that's a div element will contain these attributes. So if we want to make more divs, let's say, and say this is the second div tag. If we were to say that and reload the page, we're going to have another div tag. In fact, let me just add a break tag to make it clear, or two. Okay, so we see that there's a break tag, and we see that each div tag is doing this. Now, what if we don't want to access all the div tags? What if we just want to access, let's say, this specific tag and change the color to green, per se? What we could do in that instance is we could put ID equals, and we could name this first div. Now what we did is we assigned a unique name to this specific div. An ID can be only used for one element at a time in one page. So there can't be another paragraph tag or a span tag that has this ID, otherwise this idea fails within CSS. So what we're going to do is, instead of having that, simply the div, we're going to actually say hashtag first div, and when I say color green. So we're going to save that, and let's reload the page. Now, if we look, the color has changed, but the other ones, the other attributes, the other fonts and stuff hasn't changed. So what's going on here? So what the page is now doing is, it says that, look, this is a div, so it's going to apply all these attributes to the div first. Then it's saying that, well, wait a minute, it has an ID, it's specific, it has a specific identifier. Let me go find what that refers to, and it says, oh look, the color actually has to be green. So if there are conflicting attributes, the one that's most specific is selected in the CSS order of events. So, and the way we access, the ID, the div with the ID, or the span with the ID, or the paragraph with the ID, is putting a hashtag in front of it. Now, I wanna give another selector to end this video, and that is a class. And we're gonna call this border rounded. Okay, we're gonna call this border rounded. Now, the way you access a class, I'm gonna put a fun little attribute, border radius. That's a very interesting attribute. It actually smooths out the corners of the div, so that traditionally this would be done with a picture. Now you could just use CSS to do this, which is pretty cool. Now, the idea behind the class, so the idea behind the class one is that classes can be used for multiple elements within the page. So let's create a couple more divs. So we're going to claim this is a third, this is a fourth, and this is a fifth. And let's copy this class over to the fourth and the fifth one. Let's save that, and say, oops, let's put some break tags in between to make it clear. So there we go. So now if we look, the first one has a rounded radius, rounded border, I mean, and the fourth and the fifth one likewise have a rounded border also. But the second and the third one don't, because as you see, they don't have the class border rounded applied to them. Border rounded on the classes can be used multiple times, but the ID can only be used once. It's a very important thing in CSS. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.